What up, guys? Jonathan here. We're going to talk about Japanese role-playing games. Now, a lot of you haven't really discussed what kind of games I like. I love anything with a strong story, an adventure, and something that I can really kind of pull myself into. I'm not a big fan of multiplayer games. I'm not a big fan of puzzle games, and heck, I think GTA 5 might be the only multiplayer game that I've really been into for a long time. In little fighting games, I used to be. Now, I used to love fighting games. I used to love multiplayer games, but, you know, I've played them. I've done it. It's the same thing over and over again. Especially nowadays, especially in role-playing games, you know, you level up, you go on quests, you do the thing, you just kind of run through it's the same thing over and over and over. I'm tired of it. But what never grows tiring to me is a good story, a good adventure, and an experience where I can really put myself into the characters, and that's the type of person I am. I love really good movies, even bad movies, and I love games that have where I can see that the developers have a really good knack on writing characters and story and lore and just the setting and that kind of stuff. That's the kind of stuff I like. So anyway, after having said that, we're going to talk about Japanese RPGs. There's been a big lack of a good JRPG. We haven't had a good JRPG since what? Final Fantasy IX? Final Fantasy X, maybe? Role-playing games have fallen into the bandwagon phase, I think, for the last few years, you know, where people have tried making JRPGs and they've turned into things like Final Fantasy 13, and they're trying to give new things out to the American audience, and we don't want that. Give us our JRPGs back. The traditional Final Fantasy 3 in America, which is also 6 in Japan. Final Fantasy 7, you know, Final Fantasy 8. Those games were amazing. You know, walking around Balam Garden in Final Fantasy 8, and then, you know, you come back there eventually later on and you have to fight there. You know, it's under attack, and you know, just all these experiences that you can remember in these RPGs. Each person, I'm sure, has their own memory that they love about each individual JRPG. These were big, enjoyable experiences with great characters. Why not just it worked? Why step away from all that? That's what we want, you know? So having said that, you know, I noticed that some stuff is starting to come back. Take a look at, and you might want to knock it at first, but don't knock it until you've studied it first. Final Fantasy Type-0, which is coming out, I think it's March 13th or March 17th, one of the two. But take a look at this game. The first reason why I was thinking about getting it is the only reason pretty much is because it's going to be packed with Final Fantasy 15 demo. So, and I looked at Final Fantasy 15 and it looks amazing. It looks like it combines the action of what it was trying to do in Final Fantasy 13, but it doesn't make it this awkward turn-based thing where it's still, you know, where it's not really turn-based, but it's more action and blah. Now it's pure action. Like it's just pure. It's like a beat 'em up, but it's still, when you watch it and you watch people play it, it still retains a very much RPG feel to it, a very traditional kind of feel when you watch the combat and you watch the world. And there's going to be a world map back in it again, I'm pretty sure, is what they were saying. If you play Type-0, if you look at Type-0, which was originally a PSP game, the world map is there. All the enemies, the old enemies are there. The music is very much a callback to what we were used to back in the day. I have a feeling that this new director, Hajime Tabata, I'm sorry if I said that wrong, I think this is the man that's going to be responsible for pulling Final Fantasy back up to its feet again. The feeling of Final Fantasy is there, and I think he's going to be able to bring it back. Of course, the JRPG stuff, the old stuff, the 16-bit stuff, it's gone. It's probably never going to come back and be what we used to love. We have to, face it. There's going to be some new changes for the new consumer generation. But I think as best they can, they're putting that tradition into the game in with new styles of gameplay, and I think it will work. I'm pretty sure it will work. If you watch reviews for this Final Fantasy Type-0, which is soon to be coming to North America, it was originally released back in 2011, I think it was, and it was only in for Japan, and the reviews were out of this world from what I've read. People are saying it feels like traditional Final Fantasy again, that the characters and the story are amazing. So, after hearing all this stuff, and you can go look at it on other channels, other YouTube videos out there, they're all out there. I can't wait to get back in and give it a try, man. I'm hoping that with Final Fantasy Type-0, which I will get and play, I'm hoping that all of this stuff comes back. I'm a big fan of Chrono Trigger, Xenogears. My absolute favorite RPG in the world is Xenogears. That game was amazing. And, like games like Ys 2, Ys Book 1 and 2, if you've ever played that, those were fun RPGs back in the starting days and that was trying something new, and it succeeded. Ys Book 1 and 2, if you go back and look at the fighting system on those games, and the way you go about the adventure, it was completely new, and it was successful. It had great music. It had great characters. The story was very cliche and very, it wasn't a complex story, but it worked because of the music, because of the creativity, because of the new attempts at creating something different for people. And it works if you put your heart and soul into the game. Whether something, a gameplay implementation, whether something doesn't work, if you have good characters and good story and a great adventure, people aren't going to care, man. They'll be able to take note. They'll say, hey, we didn't like this, but the story was great, and it's still going to get good ratings. You just have to know how to implement formulas for stuff to work. And I'm hoping that Final Fantasy comes back. I'm hoping that, more RPGs. There's an RPG out called Pier Solar. And it was originally a Sega Genesis game that was finally released in 2010 and now has an HD version for the PlayStation 4 and I think the Xbox One that you can play, and it looks purely like an old school 16-bit JRPG with HD upgrades and colors and character models and the drawings and everything. Go and look at this game. It's called Pier Solar, and it looks fantastic. And guess what? It has fantastic reviews. People love it. The story, they say, is kind of cliche a little bit, but the characters and the story and the adventure they go on is so real, and just the experience, the way the characters are written, the script, the writing, they say, is amazing. So, it's just these types of games, I think they need to start happening again. People love these things. As old as they are, some of the new stuff, it's just washed out. We need to get back into creating good stories again, people. You know what I'm saying? It's like, so if you're an animator, if you're a game developer, if you're a writer, don't be afraid to create new stuff, man. That's what we ultimately want to see. We don't want to see this cookie cutter Call of Duty, Assassin's Creed, all this stuff being done over and over and over again. And don't get me wrong, some of the early Call of Duties had great stories because they took you through a live history lesson, but it's not about that anymore. Assassin's Creed, again, took you through a live history lesson through the talks of time in history of real people, real situations, and turned it. And that was amazing when it first happened. But now it's starting to leak a little bit. So you know what? I'm going to cut it off right there. And I just want to see some new stories. And when Type-0 comes out, play it. Tell me what you guys think. I'm really looking forward to enjoy this. So take care. Happy video gaming. Please subscribe to my channel. Share this if you like it. Share it with your friends, man. What do they think? What are you guys' opinions? Have a good evening, good morning, good night, good day, and Auf Wiedersehen.